So as you are going in there now, go and cooperate with the Speaker, other members of the House of Assembly of Kogi State, and be part of those that will support Governor Ahmed Usman Ododo. Are you getting my point? In everything that comes to the assembly, everything. Even if you don't understand.
And continue to talk about Nigeria. Mr. President, thank you for that very long, detailed speech. Whenever you listen to things like this, and at times want to say a few things that might not be in support of my own sister, because the chairperson is my sister. But when they say we wash our dirty linens in public, there's nothing you can do, because the linen is already in the public. You're just doing, because there's nothing you can do. It is we that are in government that is actually doing that. How do you, Mr. Chairperson, see what our brother read today? That we are going to face hunger strike in a country like Nigeria, where there's vast, fertile land. And he mentioned 3 states that is going to be mostly affected. Borno State, Adamawa and Yobe. These 3 states, Borno State is second biggest state in Nigeria, with 70.9 thousand square kilometers. Followed by, among the 3 states, Yobe is 45.5, and Adamawa is 36.5. 3 of them put together is 108,000 square kilometers. That is 5 times the size of Israel. Israel is 22.1. And so if you size Israel is 210 and this is 110. And Israel is doing food exports. And these people can't feed themselves. That is what is wrong. And that is what we must fix to stop washing our dirty linen in public. I wish you the best of the liberation.
All right, Rufai, let's get into the stories this morning. President in Japan, Yokohama, for TICAD 9. We also have, of course, this story coming up again with regards to proposed or perhaps hinted salary increases for public service holders.
So, I'm not surprised that the ADC has to talk about this again, because I know, RAMFAC will continue to be insensitive to the plight of Nigerians, and they will say they are doing their job, and we will make the argument that yes, we have not increased salaries since 2008, and it's not, reflective of realities today, and we'll go ahead to increase salaries of government officials, and it's going to continue like that, because in 2023, if my memory serves me right, they first mooted the idea of increasing the salaries.
Yes.
They couldn't do it then because of the zeitgeist of the moment. Now, they feel it's better for them. And I'm sure the argument they will make in return is that they have increased minimum wage, although the minimum wage cannot really take people home, and the economy is still in a very deplorable state, although they argue that it's stabilizing. And a lot of people will make arguments for billionaires taking more salaries. Look at people that they want to increase their salary. The president, for instance, anyway, the wife says it's our foundation and people donated the money. But they've been given $1 billion for fun. Ministers, you can see reports about ministers having homes abroad in America, ministers driving Rolls Royces and the likes, ministers living a very good life, and they say they want to increase their salaries again. And yes, when we prorate it, we'll make the argument that, the salary is less than $1,000. They earn very paltry amounts, but we all know that they get really more than that. These are the people that have enjoyed the perks of this government. For you to be a minister in this country at some point, the country has been very good to you across the pecking order. So we are not surprised. And they will go ahead and increase it. We will just shout, but it will be on record that we made our voices heard. As regards TICAD, I don't like the jamboree where developed nations call Africa to the table. One nation, Japan, will call the whole of the African continent and sit on the table and ask, what do you want? Let's give you handouts. It's colonialism 2.0. I don't like summits like this. Nothing comes out in the end, like I stated before, and I've been proven correct. If you listen to the show when the summit started, I told you that in the end of the summit, Japan will look and say, out of our magnanimity, we have decided to give you a token amount. Like I said, 5.5 billion. Go and share amongst yourself in projects. And it's rinse repeat. Since 1993 that Japan has been saying, okay, we're saddled with the development of Africa. We think Africa should develop, we can scale together. What happens as Africa develops since then? No. It's still a revolving decimal. Yes, you will say it's development in some areas. Don't let me make a fallacy of hasty generalization. But it's still a revolving decimal. Today, Africa is about 2.8 trillion or 3 trillion GDP. Japan is 4 trillion. With 30 million square kilometers of land, we can harness our resources. We've had bad leadership over the years. And the cycle continues. So we go to beg for these handouts. Yes, we'll say we are seeing development partners. Like the government is arguing now, we're talking about one project in Ogun State, over $190 million. We're talking to development partners. Does it really cut it in the end? Yes, some will argue baby steps, but no. And then when we don't make an appearance at the booth, the government will give the presidency, goodness me, I struggle to find the logic in what the presidency was saying when they said that we are talking to other people, there's no need to stay in the booth. That the booth is not being inaugurated, so we are talking to other people. Because we are talking to other people does not mean we should stay in the booth. So the other countries that came to man their booths, they must be fools, right? They must be idiots. The other countries that came to man their booths and sell their country. So you see, they will find a way around this, make the same old jaded argument they've always made. Japan will continue with its level of tokenism while its economy continues to grow. Africa is still the problems we were talking about 25 years ago. We keep talking today. And that's the way the world works, except we start to think of how to take Africa out of this dungeon, which will be leadership, which will be viable elections, which will be, enhancement of the educational sector, which will be enhancement of the health sector and social sector in the country, and investing in the will of the people. So TICAD next year, they will come again and they will give you another headline amount to go and share on the African continent. When are we going to leave this cycle of ill health on the African continent?
All right. Dr. Bati.
Okay, the last time we discussed this subject, I said, well, I'm not opposed to the idea of any kind of bilateral or multilateral, discussions among nations. There could be a lot that you could gain from it, either in terms of enhanced knowledge or sharing of knowledge and experiences, and then perhaps opportunities that are available. I complained about the capacity of African leaders when they negotiate either with Japan or France or United States or China. They do not look at the fine details of the print, the small print. Or perhaps they do not go with a competent enough technical crew to be able to understand what is involved in negotiations between nations. And hence you'll find that African leaders usually hold the small end, the wrong end of the stick, due to their own lack of preparedness and competence. And that is why we have always said that, look, these meetings end up just as talking shops, as jamboree. Whereas the other countries, the other partners, be it Japan or China or France, are better prepared. And that is why, whether it's Djibouti or it is Kenya or it's Uganda or even Nigeria, we are always at a disadvantage. Can we see a situation whereby we don't just go to these conferences, whatever label by which they are called, without being prepared? Now, to go to the speeches made yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was at a peace and security meeting where he commended the Nigerian military, and he said that the Nigerian military can win any battle. Well, I don't know about that. We haven't done a proper assessment of the capability of the Nigerian armed forces, but of course, it is right down the alley of the president at an international conference to be seen to be encouraging the Nigerian military and to be putting them in good light. Now, talking about peace and stability, the president cited the example of Congo. He says that in the Congo, peace is being brokered, linked with investment, and that is the way to go. Well, I don't know which Congo President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is talking about, but if it is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and is referring to the meeting held in the United States in June, where President Trump was talking about investment in Congo and the whole of that area. Well, it hasn't worked because the M23 rebels in eastern part of DRC, they've not reached any agreement with the government at the center, despite the intervention of Qatar. Qatar mediated a meeting with them. Now, at the last meeting that was called on Monday this week, this so-called investment profile, M23 said they will not be there. They were looking for them in Doha on Sunday. They didn't show up. So as for that model, I don't know whether President Tinubu was well informed about that, except there is another Congo that he's talking about, where there is conflict and investment is being used as a solution. He said inclusivity and diversity are the two major strengths of Nigeria. Well, it's good for the president to sell Nigeria. The inclusivity in Nigeria, there are persons who feel that they are marginalized, they are excluded. Even if I cannot cite any immediate example that may be given a coloration that I do not intend. Women feel marginalized. Women feel excluded. Nigeria is operating at half capacity. But of course, it's good that he asked for market-driven cooperation and partnership. And that takes me immediately to the statements made by Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, the Prime Minister of Japan. Now, he made a point in terms of advice to African countries. He said African countries should make use of the capacity of their youth. The phrase he used was the power of their youth. And he said the way to go, learning from their own experience, is to start with agriculture, fisheries, forestry at the primary level, and then move to a secondary level, and then gradually release the power of the youth to be involved in manufacturing by way of advice. And then, of course, he announced a $5.5 billion aid. Well, he didn't quite use the word aid, but the money is going to be disbursed by the Japanese International Body for Cooperation and Aid, JIICA, the body is called. Well, so that's aid. But President Tinubu is, in his own statement, had made the point that Africa is not looking for aid. It's looking for cooperation and partnership. For Africa to get that cooperation, I return to my original point, that our leaders must just know what they are doing when they go to these meetings. And they must go with competent and intelligent people who can read the documents that they sign. Okay, Japan, the other time we discussed this subject, has companies in Nigeria. Isuzu, Honda, Ajinomoto, that I mentioned. There are some other companies. Japan also is involved in the Nigerian LNG. I think one of the trains, there were contractors there. They helped to build and refurbish Port Harcourt and Warri refineries. Those Warri and Port Harcourt refineries are not working. They got contracts in the steel industry in this same Nigeria. It's not working. So the basic problem we have with Japan is that with all the years we have been relating with Japan, Japan does not invest directly. They take contracts. They are contractors. And just look at some of the contracts that I have mentioned. Those contracts are not working. And they are not working because Nigeria does not know what to do in terms of negotiating with these other countries abroad. President Tinubu could have told the Japanese Prime Minister, we'll give you a free trade zone. Come and set up a factory in Nigeria to create jobs for our people. After all, Japan produces some of the best brands of tire in the world, and they don't have any of the raw materials to produce tire, but they produce. They bring the raw materials from everywhere, but they have the technology and they produce it. If they come and invest in the Nigerian manufacturing sector that Prime Minister Ishiba himself was talking about, they can do it. That's the kind of partnership we should be looking for. Not 5.5 billion and then Japan will come and collect contracts and then they will do what they can do. The same refineries that they could not fix, Dangote has done it. Dangote refinery exists. And yet it did not involve the Japanese. The Nigerian government gave contracts to the Japanese. We got nothing from it. So this is the kind of contradiction we're talking about. Quickly on Ramfak. When that subject came up, I said, yes, it's good to review, the structure of wages. But, I understand the populist sentiments of people who say, no, don't increase wages because it's insensitive, the timing is wrong, the people are suffering from multidimensional poverty. Let us put it this way. I think it's the salary of everybody that should be increased, reviewed. Because of devaluation. 2-3 times devaluation has rendered the Naira worthless, if I may use that expression. And that does not mean abusing the Naira. What can the Naira fetch you? In fact, it's not even in the public sector alone that salaries should be increased. It should be increased also in the private sector. Because we all go to the same market. This is the reality. An amount that was worth $5,000 10 years ago, it's not up to $600 today. And yet Nigerians are expected to survive. As for public officers, yes, certain categories of public officers collect a lot of allowances. Governors, for example, get, what do they call it? Security vote. Senate President, House of Reps, many of them, they are fed at government expense. They get hazard allowance. They go on trips overseas. They collect extra code. Sometimes when they say they are staying 1 week, they stay 2 weeks to collect extra code. And I'm saying that what we need to do is to plug the leakages and the wastages within the system. You plug corruption. So the institutions for plugging leakages and wastages must be strengthened. But at the same time, as a result of the seeming worthlessness of devaluation of the Naira, we need to, pay better wages at all levels, including even messengers within the system, including cleaners. The thing we need to do again is to make this economy a productive economy. An economy where everybody is just consuming cannot work. You have to make it a productive economy where opportunities are created for people, where people will have disposable income. When people have more disposable income, you inspire economic activity, and you catalyze production within the economy. This economy where we're just printing national currency, that's not how they do it elsewhere. Finally, the people of Nigeria are part of the problem. They put pressure on people who are in government positions. When somebody has 7-8 children, he produces the 9th child, the thing to do is to go to the House of Reps member from there. Say, your wife has given birth to. Wife that he does not know. Traditional rulers will want to travel abroad. They will call the person representing their senatorial district, Senator, distinguished. I want to travel with my wife and 3 children. You put pressure on these public officials. How do we address that? We can only address that when everyone is comfortable within their own zone. And so you find these public officers, they are under pressure, and corruption remains a major problem. So these are the problems, the gray areas, that we need to address, in my view.
All right. So when we mentioned on Monday about the proposal perhaps mulling, I think it's important to mention that because, as was said, in 2023, they came out, RMFC came out to say that, to debunk the news that they were proposing to increase salaries of political office holders by 114%. Again, in this instance, they're still mooting the idea, so it's not yet concrete, just to emphasize that. However, in saying this, these political parties, including the ADC, PDP, CUPP coalition, and some other organizations have come out to say that please kill the idea or even the thought of the idea, because it doesn't make any sense and it shows insensitivity to the current realities for a lot of Nigerians. And I'm sure a number of people would want to agree with that. I say this because when you look at the situation of things, even if the political office holders are offered an increase in salary, they should reject it. They should reject it in light of what is happening and the fact that it does not in any way show that the people at the center are sensitive to what the ordinary Nigerian is going through. As I think was the ADC had highlighted at the fact that these political office holders, despite the fact that they've not increased their salary since 2008, seem to live very well. And with that happening, a lot of people are watching them and wondering, where is the money coming from? How can a minister who is said to be earning about 990,000 or close to $1 million be able to afford certain things? The president, okay, he would say he made his money from many sources before he came into power. But what Nigerians are calling for is perhaps a holistic view of how to create wealth for the ordinary man, and not just how to continue to increase salaries or to identify with the plight of public office holders who they say, or political office holders who they say are not earning enough money. If the money isn't enough, then they should resign. At this point, there's no money to increase salaries for anybody, or should be reviewed at this point. It does not make any sense, social or economic, for lots of Nigerians. But moving on to that, let me talk about the president's participation at TICAD 9 in Yokohama, Japan. And currently it's day 2 afternoon, 8 hours ahead of us. So it's about, let's say, about 4 p.m. in Yokohama currently. However, in his statement, there was something that came out when he was speaking about the efforts of the security forces in Nigeria and the recent wins, and applauding them. I think it's well within his rights, and it's good for him to acknowledge the efforts, because whenever they do wrong, we're very quick to criticize. And so when there's a win, it's good to celebrate that, also as a way to motivate them to do even more. But he made a statement. He said, whilst talking about them being able to win many battles across, he mentioned that that this heroism and sacrifice can be supported, or they do justice to it, when governments display the courage to be tough, not only on terror, but on the causes of terror. And I thought that was fantastic. I say this because we had asked the question around the fact that why do we see, celebrate success one day, the next day we're hearing about the incident in Katsina, where people who had gone to pray are being killed, the death toll has gone higher. It's because if we don't tackle the cause of terror, we will continue to just nip it in the bud, or just cut the head off, while the root will continue to create even more and more insecurity. And so there are multifaceted reasons for why terrorism continues to thrive, particularly in Nigeria. Across the world, you could look at political issues, you could look at ideological factors, you could look at the social and economic factors. But for Nigeria in itself, I would like to look at the social and economic factors and ideological factors. If this administration is serious about tackling the root causes of terrorism, then we must look at what is driving it. Beyond ideological is poverty. At the very bottom of it, at the end of the day, the reason why you can recruit a young person to carry out dastardly acts, in the name of terrorism, or in the name of one belief or the other, is because there's nothing. It's attractive for them. They're able to be blindsided because of the fact that the reward would at least take care of their family members at home. And so, if we don't look at education, especially in the northeastern area of Nigeria, in the northern part of Nigeria, we'll continue to grapple with arresting, and they will keep on rearing their head again and again. Cut off one, it will come back again. Like a cancer, it will keep coming back until we're able to deal with the root causes. So if the presidency is serious about this, then number one, deal with the issues around unemployment. An idle mind is the devil's workshop, literally. In areas where there's no work to be done, it is attractive for them to go into this. Number two, political unrest as well, and the feeling of unease or of unfairness and being excluded from the commonwealth of the nation could also drive these actions. So if we're serious about it, I hope we'll continue to have conversations around not just the successes made by the military and the security outfits, apparatus of Nigeria, but even more so catching it and nipping it before it even begins to rise. And so I think that's an important point I'd like to highlight from his statement yesterday. With regards to the partnership between Japan and Nigeria, the Japanese representative had said there about the attraction for not just Japan, but the rest of the world with Africa and, let's say, Nigeria. Youthful population, one of the greatest resources that we have as a people. And as we often say, I don't think as a people we've been able to yet maximize or tap into the potential that we have as a nation based on our youthful population. He said that in about a few years down the line, the population of Japan will be in half. And these people recognize this. But instead of going to the table with the mindset of investing directly in the lives of the people here through, as has been already mentioned, setting up factories, setting up opportunities for employment for these young people. Again, going back to that security issue I mentioned earlier on, even tackling issues around insecurity. we should go with that mindset. It's not just about, okay, optics, signing memorandums, coming out with reports, debunking, and this. It's really about the substance. What is the need for us? What I would put as a closing thought to Mr. Bayo Ononuga following the end of TICAD 9 tomorrow would be a comprehensive report on some of the very critical, measurable outcomes for Nigeria and Nigerians from this summit. If we cannot get this, then we should stop going for these summits. If we cannot measure with timelines, milestones, what is in it for us, then we should not bother going in, for this kind of summit or coming out with statements around what is there for Nigeria. And so we're looking forward to what he would present tomorrow. It's not just, again, like I mentioned, about optics, pictures, signings, big statements, announcements of pledges. It's really about the detail. How many factories are we going to get out of this summit? How many business deals are we going to get out of this summit? And to what extent is it going to affect the Nigerian people?